Hi everyone, it's Ed with Creative Solutions. I'm here with the final installment of the Sugar Creek Forge 2012 Build Along. I had some issues with my SD card, so I lost a lot of the final processes of me completing my knife. But what I'll go ahead and do is I'll show you some of the tools and the techniques I used to obtain the final product. Here we have the final end result of my Build Along project. I ended up going with stainless steel lanyard tube, homemade Loveless bolts, and the technique was given by Mr. John 714. I'll have a link in the description to the video. I'm going to actually show you a different way to do it by hand instead of using a milling machine or a belt sander. It's just another option, and keeping with the theme of completing everything by hand, this is what I went ahead and did. I left my blade as kind of a satin finish. It was done at 120, and then what I ended up using was just a little bit of this Flitz metal polish, and that's how I achieved some of the shine. I didn't want to bring this up to a polish. Maybe I should have, just due to the rusting issues. But for now, I'd just like to give you a look at the knife itself and how she turned out. I think came out beautiful. I ended up going with black ink diamond wood. As you all know, I had to source my own materials, so that was why I actually opted to do something a little bit different for the pins and the scale material. This was the closest material I had on hand to match your mesquite that you're using in the build along. I really try to keep it somewhat similar. I know I'm not in the group that's building. I just felt I wanted to build along and share a few tips with you. As we went through the process. I'll show you actually how I achieved this really clean edge of my grind line. And again, I have a little recess here for a ferrocerium rod that's at a 90 degree, make a good striker. But I'm not sure what this would be classified as a, small outdoors camp knife, a little military style knife. I don't know, it was just a design I came up with. And I just wanted to give you all a good look at it. And now what I'll do is I'll give you a look at the processes I used to complete the knife itself. Here we have a couple of the tools I used to create the bevel and to clean up the blade itself. Just a sanding block, typical sanding block. This one's made out of maple. I'm sure I've showed this on other videos. This is a little revision as to what Kylie Harris done with his using just a piece of 272 sandpaper. I opted to see if I can use a 1 by 30 inch belt, which will give me a better option. This is good for a lot of freehand cleaning up the blade, and when you need a clean area of belt, all you do is take off your two spacers here and rotate the belt around. Rotate the belt around, put back in your spacers. Guys, I hope I'm keeping this in frame. I don't have a camera with a front view finder, so I don't know if I have it in frame sometimes. But that's how you change it. That's how this one was done. And it works great. Just coming in and cutting your profile or whatever it is you want to use it for. This one was a little bit short for me getting an exact angle when I was doing my bevel. And I actually done everything right here on the little table. I just moved my vise out of the way. So I went and I reinvented, so to speak, the original design. And again, it's very similar in that you use the 1 by 30-inch belt. You use the 2 spacers in the back to tighten it up. Get your edges aligned, get her tight. And now with this, I'm not sure if you noticed or not, so if I could do this behind the camera. This piece of block here, that's what I used to set my bevel, the degree. I went with a 5-degree bevel on my knife. It's exaggerated now so you can get a look at how I did it. So all I did was, once I had the bevel set here, or the degree of angle, my board gave me my angle. And it was just a simple process of coming through and filing. And as for the plunge line, same thing. You could line it right up exactly where you needed it and just run your plunge line straight. So it's nice and crisp, and you can take really long strokes and at the same angle. I do apologize again for losing the footage. This would have been a great tip for some of the guys having issues getting their Scandi grinds down. But I'm not sure if you can see how quick that started putting that angle, and it's all even. It's just dead even straight across. So that's how I achieved the nice line along my cutting edge of my knife. And just for demonstration purposes, I just used some double-sided tape and stuck a scrap piece of steel on. Let's see if I could get this a little closer, give you a little better look at that bottom. So that's how I did that. The scales were actually done with micro mesh. After all the rough filing and sanding was done, I took it up to 12 or 2000 with a regular wet dry paper, and then I used the micro mesh, and as you, hopefully you can see, it goes up to 12,000 in grit. And what they are, they're little color-coded squares. You use them like just wet dry sandpaper and go from the coarsest to the finest, and that's how you achieve a super high gloss without putting any type of oils or buffing or anything like that. And then I gave it 2 coats of Minwax tongue oil, and then just hand buffed it out with a rag. Actually, this was probably the rag I used here. Just buffed it out, and that's how I achieved the end product. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I was able to do the Loveless style bolts by hand. And again, the idea is courtesy of Mr. John 714, a very smart individual. And I just modified his technique slightly so that we can use it in this build along. So again, on the universal vise here, just set it up. Also, what you're going to need, or what I found is helpful, is a drill guide. One, it gives you the right size for your bolt that you're using, and then you can actually see what size your nut is close to as far as being round. And then you just make sure you have that size of drill bit and you work your nuts down to that size. So it's really a good tool to have, and it's just very, very simple. So guys, basically I have 4 nuts and a bolt, and all you do is you come in. I'm using a double cut Nicholson bastard file. Hopefully you can pick that up. It cuts this very, very easily. Put it a little closer into the jaws, getting a little too much vibration. And what the drill guy does also is let you see how nice and round you're getting your nut. I'm going to try to do this whole process as quick as I can here, and I'm barely advancing the bolts and nuts. Every time you see me loosening up the vise, but as you can see, this is a very simple process, even by hand. Anybody could do this at home. You have the tools now, since you already have your file. What you may need is a vise or some sort of clamping system. You could probably even do it with a clamp that Tim showed you how to make. Just set in maybe a couple of pieces of rubber between the 2 boards, and so yeah, as I was saying, a couple of pieces of rubber, and you can go ahead and use the vise that Tim showed you how to make. So hopefully you can see this is coming around to where we initially started. And what I do is I go ahead and I'll pull it out and I'll just work it down. See, there's a real good fit there. I'll work it down to the size that I know I have a drill bit for. That's an actual 5/16. So I'm almost done with this now. They're all pretty round, and what I do typically is throw it in a drill. Again, this is something you used for the build along anyway, and just clean it up a little bit. I actually bent the bolt, put a little bit too much pressure on it. But just back and forth until you have the finish and the roundness that you desire. And then that's also good for your small adjustments to make it fit the right size hole that you want to end up with. But that's it, guys. That's the whole process that I use to complete my knife. And I apologize for not being able to share the handle, the gluing of the handle, the epoxying of the handle, the setting of the Loveless bolts, but it was just how things worked out this time with the SD card. But I have another one, and hopefully uh, you know, this will help somebody that's still in the process of building their knife. Okay, so that's about it, guys. That wraps up the 2012 Sugar Creek Forge build-along. I'd like to thank Tim for coming up with this fantastic idea and affording the opportunity to anyone to build along with the build team. It was fun. I built quite a few knives, but this one, with the amount of time I put into it, it means quite a bit more, I think, than a lot of the others. So Tim, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Also, to Mr. John, thank you, sir, for your tips. Very much appreciated. Learned something new, without a doubt. All the build-along team, hopefully you've taken the opportunity to look at some of the other builders' channels and see if there were tips that you could incorporate into your knives that you're using or that you're actually building during the build-along. And I hope I was able to share at least a couple of ideas with you to help you along, make it a little easier, give you some different ideas as to how to look at things. There's more than one way to skin a cat, guys. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you. And Tim, good job, man. You and all the sponsors, thank you very much. And until the next video, we'll see everyone soon. Thanks. Bye.